Good morning, everybody. It's Positive Tuesday today, July 18th, 2023. Man, I'm already screwed up this morning. You see, you fluster me every time you come on the show. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy, presented by Professional Exteriors and Interiors. With 20 years of experience, this locally owned and operated business provides quality work both on the inside and on the outside of your home or business. Like Fitzy and I, they believe it's the little things that make a big difference. Give him a call today. You can call Brian. His number is right there on the screen, 715-520-2271. As you can see, filling in for Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald this week is our very good friend and friend of the show, Spooner Health CEO Mike Schafer. Mike, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this all kind of came together, quickly. Hold on, I want to throw this up. First of all, good morning, Molly, but there's Dad. Hey, Mike, did you get my shirt?
I apologize I didn't comment. Did you like my shirt? I loved your shirt. Terry, I thought maybe your son would have his on today. A little disappointed he didn't.
Excuse me?
Oh, he does. Okay, gotcha.
Because I never wear polos, dude. This is like for grown-ups. And I wear T-shirts and sweatshirts.
I'm impressed, Ben. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and I sent Dad your shirt because that was from the Spooner Golf outing last year. Hey, we should talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this all kind of came together. You and I were actually at coffee at the dock last Friday morning. Fitzy called and said, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm sitting here with Schafer having coffee. What's up? And he's like, well, perfect. See if he wants to fill in for me next week because I just found out I got a whole bunch of meetings now. Got scheduled, some interviews for something. I don't know. So I can't be on the show. So I'm like, hey, do you happen to be free? And you were. So that's how all this kind of just happened.
It was fate.
Fortuitous. Yeah. So we always start with, because today's show, we're going to be doing a Q&A where you and I are going to ask each other questions. We don't answer our own questions. This is just going to be about whatever. I wrote down 10 questions for you. I don't know if we'll get through all of them, and hopefully you wrote down some. But before we get to that, Fitzy and I started not too long ago. We start off with some sports questions just to kind of keep it light. So I have a question for you. This is from... Let me pull it up here. This is from LegalSportsReport.com. This was 6 days ago. And this is about, I know you like or at least you follow the Vikings.
Yes.
I follow the Bears. Most everyone watching probably follows the Packers. So I figured we'll tie this all in. So this is odds to win the NFC North this year. And there's a little preview here. It says last season the Vikings cruised to the NFC North two of the crown, while the Lions and Packers were eliminated from postseason contention on the final day of the season. As the odd makers see it, Detroit has the edge over the competition for the season. In the race for second place, the early betting line suggests that it's wide open, with Minnesota holding a slight edge as the offseason continues. So as of right now, the betting lines are Detroit first, Vikings second, Bears third, Packers fourth. So my question to you is, and to anyone else that is watching that wants to answer, which is more likely to happen? Detroit Lions finish first or the Green Bay Packers finish last?
This won't be popular, but I would think the Green Bay Packers finishing last. Detroit really improved last year. Had a good season, made some good off-season acquisitions, and Jordan Love is an unknown. Packers quarterback. I think it's more likely that the Lions finish first.
Wait, so, okay, more likely that they finish first than the Packers finishing last.
I'm sorry. It's more likely that the
Packers finish last. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to go the opposite on that one.
Okay.
It's hard to see. I mean, I can't remember the last time I ever saw the Lions predicted to win a division. It's got to be 25 years. And I know that the Packers I don't think anyway, I should say. I think that the Packers aren't in love with Jordan Love. Otherwise, he'd have been playing, I think, a little while ago. But they're an exceptionally well organization, much to my dismay. But here's the thing. I have the Bears could get first this year or last. They were the last year. I think Justin Fields, the whole offense is built around him. He's a running quarterback. I think he's going to get hurt early and often. I just don't. I think any of these teams could finish last. So I'll go. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears finish last. So I'll say the Lions. I think it's more likely that they'll get first, just because everybody else sucks.
Well, that's a good way to look at it.
Well, I'm just saying.
I agree with you on Fields. I'm not sold on him as a quarterback either. He's got a fantastic set of legs. He runs a lot. His arm, suspect. His decision making, suspect. The
That's a
Bears
very
did
nice
do a
way of
lot.
saying it. He's
Yeah,
terrible.
the Bears did a lot in free agency this year,
They
though.
did.
So it'll be interesting. But
That
you're right. The dangers of a running quarterback they're high.
put way too much. All right. Do you have a sports question this morning?
I do. It's kind of a quiz question for you. It should be a gimme. We'll see. What international sporting event that started in 1903 and has
Pass.
happened every year except during the two world wars is going on right now? And does Mike Schafer spend too much time in front of the TV watching?
Well, tennis is over. Wait, when did it start? It's international. Oh, soccer.
No.
Soccer. I don't know. International sport.
It goes on for 3
Oh,
weeks.
Tour de France.
There you go. Yep. Ongoing. It was interesting because I catch the highlights in the evening when I go home. I watch too much of it on the weekend. In fact, my wife walked in Sunday morning and said, "Is this race still going on?" I said, "Yeah, until next Saturday." And she's like, "Good God." So
No wonder why Lance Armstrong took drugs. That's a
yeah,
long time.
well, when they ride, anywhere from 160 to 300 kilometers in a day up
Okay, what's
mountains
that in
and
like real, like miles? Don't say
yeah,
kilometers. What?
well, that's how they talk on the TV. About
But
point
what is that
0.6
in real
miles per
life?
kilometer. So anywhere from a little over 100 to 200 miles in a day.
Wait,
Mountains
one
passes
day?
in one day.
No, they don't.
And
They don't bike 100 miles a day.
yes, they do. They go over 100 up mountain passes. It is crazy how athletic these guys are and how strong they are.
Do they know they don't have to do this?
I don't know, but I watch them going up these small hills, talking to each other in the peloton, and it's just like, boy, I go up a small hill, I can't talk to anybody. So,
All right. And by the way, Dad, aren't you supposed to be at a breakfast this morning with someone? He needs a secretary. I think he's supposed to be going to breakfast. You better be on your way. And if you are driving, you shouldn't actually be watching this. All right. So you and I are going to do a Q&A. We both wrote down 10 questions for each other that we're going to ask. But first, hey, here's a word from Spooner Health. We'll be back in 15 seconds.
Satisfaction surveys and in conversations with patients, they appreciate the fact that staff got to know them. Staff really took their preferences into account, and they just feel grateful that they are being cared for as a person.
To learn more about our services, visit spoonerhealth.com.
Is that weird seeing yourself,
yeah, time for a new ad.
Oh, yeah, it has been a while. We should let Michelle. Michelle's just killing it. I saw her the other day. She is just fantastic.
A phenomenal job for us.
No kidding. You guys are so lucky to have her. And you better treat her right because we're looking for a person that could do that kind of position here at DrydenWire. So, just saying, we're going to totally poach her. It'll be like Fitzy stealing all of our jailers and dispatchers.
Good luck. We're treating her well.
Yeah. All right. So I have some questions. We'll just go, one after the other. I mean, I'll ask you, you ask me, etc. So we don't answer our own questions. Some of these are specific about you and Spooner Health. And some of these are more like, we have one maybe about cancel culture I'm going to ask. I want to see if I can get you to just squirm in your seat just a little bit. But we're going to start off with some easy ones here. So first one, how did you become involved in your career in health?
Oh, that's an interesting one. It actually started in college. I went to Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota. Thought I was an accounting major. Accounting 245 told me I wasn't an accounting major. I like to joke that I have too much personality to be an accountant. Sorry to my accountant friends I have. So I was going to be a business major, and I was sitting in a management class, and Dr. Ted Highmark, a gentleman I consider my mentor, was the professor. He was also the head of the hospital administration program at that time. Every example he used, obviously because his expertise was in healthcare, it sounded real interesting. It gave me the opportunity when I was looking at it to be in a profession where you help people. But quite honestly, I'm not a science guy. I didn't like science classes. The program at Concordia was rather unique because it was, I think, the first in the nation with an undergrad funded by a Robert Wood Johnson grant with the sole purpose of putting people out, hospital administrators into rural areas. So before I graduated, an internship in Mankato, Minnesota, at a large hospital. And after graduating, took a job as an administrator of a 14-bed hospital, 40-bed nursing home in Northeast Montana. Moved from there 3 years later to Minnesota, then to here. So I kind of stumbled into the healthcare administration on the business side, but I love the fact that I'm in a business where we're helping people, but I'm not the guy dealing with the blood and stuff like that. So.
Isn't that interesting? I kind of feel like that is a very common story. How you, like anyone that's, watching this, if we ask you, where did you start or how did you get to your profession? A lot of people don't really start at, okay, at 17, I knew I was going to go to college because I knew I was going to do this. It's just interesting how, we saw Dad that was on there. He didn't go to school for this. He's in Vietnam and then, he had other jobs. He's in Chicago area or the metro area. Then he moved up here. He's doing a few jobs. Then he was at the head custodian at the school. Went to school part-time to be it's weird, but very interesting. But I think that's a very common thing that it's almost like this random, now I look at it, everything really had to fall in place for this all to happen. And yeah, I never really intended to be. Like if I asked you, because how long have you been the CEO now? 35 years?
36 years.
36 years. If I asked you 37 years ago.
38 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a long time. Holy cow. When are you retiring? That's not a question, sorry. No, it is a question. I have a follow-up question, please. In the front row right here, follow-up question. Retiring anytime soon?
I'm retiring I'll consider retiring when I quit enjoying what I do, and I still enjoy what I do. So
got it. Okay.
I don't know what I'd do if I retired. So
okay.
Well, I got a softball to start with you too, because I've never really asked you this question. How did you come up with the inspiration for DrydenWire? What was your original thoughts that I should do this? And then how long did it take before you said I could do something like this before you actually went live with DrydenWire?
Yeah, it was around the winter time, end of 2014, early 2015, and I was going to one of my daughter's volleyball tournaments, middle school. It was in Cadott. So I'm driving there, and I was behind because I was at work in the morning, and I stopped at a wayside, and I got my phone out to look to see if, WIA, what are the updated scores in the tournament, and they had the bracket, but no updated stuff. So the rest of the way there, I'm thinking, it would be really nice. We should have in North Wisconsin, that'd be great for all these tournaments for families to be able to see updated scores if they could go or if they couldn't go to these events. So I'm thinking, all right, that's a really neat idea. I wonder if I should do something like that. So that's what kind of was the bug. And I thought about it off and on for a few weeks. And then I came up to Mom and Dad's house, and it was on a Saturday morning, and there was a paper on the coffee table, and it was our local paper. I can't remember which one, but it was talking about I think the featured story above the fold was, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember reading this going, wait, this didn't just happen. This was a week and a half ago. Wait, is this an old paper? And Mom said, no, it just came out. I'm like, what? If it just came out, but this was a week and a half ago story, and that's their above the fold story. And I was living in Eau Claire at the time, so we have daily news and whatnot. I said, well, I don't mind paying for news, I guess, and I don't mind old news, but I think I'd mind paying for old news. And Mom kind of sarcastically said, well, do something about it. And of course, I fired back, well, maybe I will. And I kind of left it alone, but that stuck in my head for, nonstop for 2 weeks. And I said, you know what? I think there is a hole here. So this was around February of 2015. And I said, that's it. That's what I'm doing. So I sold everything I had. I sold my vehicle, everything. Sold all my furniture and moved up to my parents' house. And I was living in their basement. I'm a total cliche. 37 divorced kids living in my parents' basement with no college degree. Didn't finish college.
For you.
But then we worked on it for about 6 months, and we went live October 1st of that year. And I didn't know if it was going to work, to be honest. We had asked, I think I've shared this story before, I asked 100 people, and I still have those sheets, told them what the idea of this was, and do they think it would work, and would they read it? And 90 out of 100 of them said, no, won't work, and probably nobody will ever care or read it. The only two that said yes were at the time my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and my mother. That's it. Those are the only two that said it would work. So it was a big risk. Yeah, but that's originally how it was. It was started with something about sports in our area, which ironically we don't do any sports because our local newspapers do a really good job of sports. So that's it. All right, my turn. From 2020 through 2022, this would be the COVID era, we'll call it. Was there ever a moment that you thought about retiring or doing something else?
No.
Really? Not once? Come on.
I will say this though. You asked me how to retire when I don't enjoy my job. There was a point where I have to admit that I really did not enjoy my job as much as I used to.
Okay.
In the COVID years, it was difficult. As healthcare providers, we were in a real interesting light. We went from the healthcare heroes to all of a sudden we were the villains in this whole thing, and that was difficult to take because
Yeah.
I see our staff on the front lines, caring for patients, caring for COVID patients back when we didn't know as much about it, putting themselves at risk in that. And everything we did was around COVID. Then the community got mad because we were required to require them to wear masks. It became so politicized.
What?
I never thought about retiring, but there were days where I went home thinking, why do I do this? And I get back to our mission of providing high quality healthcare and the frontline staff we have that was just doing an awesome job in difficult times caring for these people. So yeah, it was a long time, and top that off with the inability to find staff. Hiring staff was next to impossible during that time. People were leaving and doing contract jobs for a lot more money elsewhere. It was probably the most difficult external pressures I'd seen in my job in that point 35 years. So.
Did you feel at any point during this, though, that even in those moments of, man, this is stressful, this is difficult, this is challenging, but I got to see this through to the end. Like, I cannot
absolutely.
leave this. I mean, I don't care if I just hated everything, which you did not say that. I'm saying, even if you just hated everything about your job and you want it out, you can't leave, though, right? It's like, I have to finish this.
Absolutely. I mean, if I don't won the lottery, I wouldn't have retired.
Ooh, that would have been a good question. Dang it. I should have
but-
asked that. Had you won the lottery during this, would you have left? That's a good question.
And like I said, we have and when I say we, I'm talking Spooner Health, but this goes to healthcare providers, hospitals everywhere in the area. We got such great staff that selflessly put themselves at the front lines.
Mm-hmm.
To leave during a time like that when I'm supposed to be the leader of this organization, that just, I couldn't bring myself to do that.
Mm. All right. What do you have?
I'm going to hit with a harder one right away. Maybe
Oh.
not a harder one because I know how you answer it, but I love when I read all the comments. I mean, one of my favorite things to do on DrydenWire is read comments. I don't miss an interview you do. I don't see most of them live, quite honestly. I try to catch you and Fitzy live when I can. I look at them later, and you have a lot of politicians on, and I know it's kind of an open invitation. But when I see that you're getting accused of leaning to the right, or when we had some Democrat representatives, you lean to the left.
Yeah.
We all have our personal political beliefs, but how does that affect you when you start seeing people claiming that you're using your show possibly to bring your politics about?
So the question is, how does it affect me? Is that what it was?
Yeah. How do you deal with that? And how does that make you feel?
The therapy.
Okay. Good.
That helped. Like, no kidding. It did, because that was freaking out. So first, yeah, I don't have a leaning one way or the other. I'm apolitical, which doesn't just mean I'm kind of in the middle. It also means I don't really care that much. And I believe, the Bible is the highest authority. And last time I checked, a political party, doesn't have authority on the Bible. Sorry to say, Republicans, you guys don't have, carte blanche on that topic. So it bothers me a little bit. Like, it was like 3 years ago, speaking of COVID and Spooner, well, not specifically Spooner Health, we were doing the COVID updates for our 6 counties every day at 2:00 with how many cases, all this, right? Yeah. I would have Republican friends, and even I could think of at least 2 Republican legislators who made it very clear that they were not happy that I was doing that. Yeah. And it's, sorry, I guess, maybe, I don't know. And that was, I think, when Patty Shockner was still in the Senate, Nick Milroy in the 73rd, Janet Bewley in the 25th. So we had some Democrats, and Governor Evers was putting out a lot of press releases during this time. So I think that year we had like a 3 or 4-to-1 ratio of quote unquote Democrat posts versus Republican posts. And now, of course, it's completely switched.
Yeah.
Now it's all of our area legislators are Republican, so it seems pretty Republican heavy because, vote for someone else, folks, if you don't like them. So does it bother me? Does it affect me? It used to affect me. But now it just kind of, you know what? No, I'll explain. Listen, we don't write political articles, therefore we don't have a leaning. We publish every single press release and guest column from our area legislators. If we would pick and choose which ones, then that would be a bias. If there's one of them that wants to advertise with us, everybody can. It's fine. Anybody can. And in terms of our shows, the people, guests that come on, they ask to come on. We don't pick and choose. So that we have put in all, even if I was like the craziest far right or far left, like personally, way out there on either side, if I follow these 4 things that we have in place, there's literally no way there could be any bias in terms of our website and our business because you just follow those things, which we do. So it doesn't matter.
Great.
At all. But it does affect me a little, but not as much as it used to. And thank you, therapy.
Therapy is a good thing.
Yes, it is. All right. So because you are the CEO of Spooner Health, do you find there are things you want to say but can't because you are the CEO of Spooner Health?
Oh, yes. I have to be very careful at times when I'm wearing my Spooner Health hat to just, be careful what I say. Often comes to politics. I have my own personal political leanings, but I have worked well with legislatures on both sides of the aisle over time, even though I don't agree with some of what they're doing. I think it's the politics more where I have to bite my tongue. Even in my personal life, people look at me as the CEO of Spooner Health, and when I say stuff, does that carry over? I don't think it often does. But give you an example, for how many years that I was here, our state senator was a Democrat. I worked very well with Jauch and with Bewley when it came to issues of rural healthcare because they were both supporters of rural healthcare. Having Romaine Quinn now, a Republican, as our senator, he is very supportive of rural healthcare as well, and I work close with him. In fact, I do want to recognize Romaine. He recently, in the budget, got an amendment attached to the budget that passed and stayed in there that's going to double the funding available for advanced practice nurse practitioners, grants available, which will help rural areas that are struggling to staff with physicians and advanced practice nurses. Just an example of something that our local legislature did to really help improve healthcare access in our area.
Now, do you find that when you say things like, I want to give a shout out to Romaine Quinn for this, it's then you must be, right?
No, some people.
If you just compliment a Republican, say no more. I know everything about you now.
Yeah, but if Romaine Quinn was a Democrat, which I know he's not, I'd say the same thing. Or if Janet Bewley was still in office and had sponsored that, I'd say the same thing. But I think it's important for people to know sometimes, though, that you hear the negatives coming out of, oh my goodness, there's Stacy. Hi, Stacy. You hear the negatives coming out of Madison so much and DC. Yeah. But there's an example of where one of our local legislatures really did, in talks with people like from the Hospital Association, his constituents who are in healthcare and that, it's an area that he felt strongly about, and he was able to bring positive change, which will help funding for training programs in rural areas.
Well, Fitzy says that all the time too, right? Like Dave Armstrong, what he's working on right now, Representative Armstrong, who you know as well, down in Barron County, and actually I think he's as of now, but we'll see. In a year from now, he may not be our legislator anymore. Now we may be back in the 73rd. But he gives him credit and Romaine because they're the ones that get things done for rural law enforcement. It's like, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Exactly. If you are pro-law enforcement, I'm pro-you.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So since you got off on the I guess you didn't ask it politically, but that's where I have to watch what I say. One thing I enjoy most about your show is when you have candidates or politicians on. And I like the fact that you let them speak. You don't seem to have an agenda when you get people on. You want them to introduce themselves and let the voters decide. But you now have a regular monthly with Tom Tiffany, our U.S. representative. Yeah. There's some rumors about his political future. I keep hearing he may be tied to the Senate race.
Yeah.
When I talked to you offline and that, you're pretty well connected to what's going on in the state of Wisconsin. What are your thoughts? Do you think you see Tom Tiffany running for Senate?
Yeah, the WPR just had a story, I think yesterday or this morning. We even put it on our headline link things on our website, talking about that a little bit. So what is being kind of tossed around, I guess he is actually, or his campaign has secured a couple of domain names like, Tiffany for Senate, something like that, whatever. Which is important. You have to get kind of prepared for that stuff. I think I asked him on a live show if he was going to. He said he's going to make a decision, I think, by around August. So my guess is it's going to be coming up here in the next few weeks that he'll make a decision. Do I think he's going to? No. I don't know. I don't know where he kind of leans. I've never asked him, offline. We have some, every once in a while, some texts or calls. Not nearly as much as we did when he was in the Senate, in Wisconsin Senate. Now he's a congressperson. I mean, he's a congressperson. He's busy. So I don't want to bother him. So we don't really, talk nearly as much as we used to, except for our live shows. I could say that if I was in his spot, I don't know if I don't think I could do it. He has a cush gig right now. I mean, the last technically 3 elections, the special election, then that fall election, and then last year's, I mean, he wins by a lot of his 25 or 26 counties that of part or all of that he represents. I don't think he's ever lost more than 3. I mean, and it's an every 2-year thing. I would probably see him more going up through GOP leadership, maybe. I don't know, but maybe, because let's face it, at this point, Tammy Baldwin, I think she's unbeatable. Look at our state elections last year and our Supreme Court. I mean, Evers, our Attorney General, Lieutenant Governor, Ron Johnson got in by the skin of his teeth. Our Supreme Court race. I mean, this is, and she has way more money already. Now, sure, somebody could come in and just dump tons of money into this. I don't know. I think that's a huge risk, because if he loses that, you don't get to go back to Congress. And he's still relatively new in Congress, right? 3 years-ish? So I don't have any insight, and if I did, honestly, I probably wouldn't say. But I can tell you that I don't actually. Yeah. I would be surprised if he did, just because that's a huge risk, man. And I just don't see. Can you see anybody beating Tammy Baldwin?
I think it would take the right circumstances and the right person. I mean, taking someone from the northern part of the state, the name recognition, even within the Republican Party in the southern part of the state, isn't always great.
It's tough.
It's an uphill climb for anyone to beat any incumbent. But let's face it, with the midterms last time, the Dobbs decision, Supreme Court played a huge role, and that's still out there.
Yeah,
I think she's very difficult to beat.
Yeah, and I don't know how this plays.
Not unbeatable, but very difficult to beat.
Yeah, and I don't know how this plays with the presidential election cycle. I don't really know, because as of right now, it looks like it's going to be another Trump-Biden thing. Which, what the frick? That's so stupid, but okay, on so many levels.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. I should restate. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I just think if I was in that spot, I wouldn't take that. That's a huge risk, and I don't think now is necessarily the right time to do it. But again, if a lot of these state races does come down to money. That's when the money matters the most of these state races. But I think we saw this last elections, money just dumped in. The Democrats are taking a card out of the Republicans' playbook, and they are just getting tons of money from outside of Wisconsin. I don't see that stopping. I'm just saying that's a huge risk.
I agree.
All right, question for you. What is your view and or opinion of cancel culture? That used to be like what liberals did. Now we see a lot of conservatives even now with Bud Light and Target with their no-tuck something swimsuit or something like that. I don't know. So we're kind of seeing it from both sides now. So this is just a thing. If you don't like something, you got to cancel it and tell everybody else to do it. What is your view of that?
I'm tired of it. It's crazy. Everyone's looking, not everyone. A lot of people are just looking for things to be offended by. And, there's some things in this country that need to change and have been changing and that. But it's like people go out of the way to try to be offended because then it gives them a platform to do something. And you're right. I think, it used to be the boycotts and the cancel culture seem to be more to the left. Now you have the Bud Lights, you have the Targets like you mentioned. The way I look at it, I make personal decisions where I may not support a business, a brand or something because of something they did, something they stand for. That's my personal thing. But I could, I'm not going to boycott them. I'm not going to try to organize something. This whole Bud Light thing, it's just crazy. If you don't like what Bud Light did with their marketing, don't buy their product. Plain and simple. I support that. But to have what's going on, that we have to harm the business, we have to harm people, reputations, whatever, it's getting old. We need to get back to the stage where we have a thicker skin in a lot of this area and roll with the punches.
Have you ever been truly offended by anything in your life?
I'm guessing I have.
That's interesting because I haven't.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of, I'm not saying this sarcastically or jokingly, maybe it is because I'm a white male.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a part of it too. I don't know. I've never actually, of my faith, you can rip on all you want. I'm not offended by it.
Yeah.
Nope, no problem. Like there's nothing that actually really offends me, I guess. And speaking of, there's a business that didn't actually pay any of their bills and then they refused to, with DrydenWire. It's a long story behind that. So needless to say, don't support their business anymore. But I'm not even going to tell you who it is.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I'm not going to, because they did, like, my opinion of other people is based solely on one thing: how you treat me. Don't care about anything else. Just how do you treat me? That's my opinion of you then.
Yep.
And they didn't treat me well, so now I don't like them. But you may have a great experience with them. So I'm not going to tell you not to go to their business.
Exactly. I think stuff like that needs to be personal decisions people make based on their own set of values, not peer pressure and everything else.
Yeah. All right. You have a one.
That's a good one, Ben.
Yeah, buddy.
You see, I'm just patting you on the back with all the great stuff you've done with DrydenWire so far. I need Fitzy here because it's more important. It's more fun when we can gang up.
So what I'm hearing is that's all the questions that you had, which is fine. I have a whole bunch more here. We're already at 9, so I'm going to fly through a couple real quick.
I have another one.
All right, go ahead.
I got lots, but you've come up with some pretty good interviews over the years. I can think back to your first Ted Nugent interview.
That was a good one.
The second one was a little
Not
off
so
the
much.
wall. I didn't follow that.
Yeah, that was a little crazy.
So, if you could pick 3 guests that you could have on your show to interview in any fashion, who would you choose?
So I would assume these are not going to be people that are likely to ever come on. So I'm gonna go for the Grand Slams here.
Okay.
Yeah, the Hail Marys. Well, any 3. Well, I don't like doing interviews. I like doing conversations.
Yes. Yep.
So who would be? I'll pick someone in the entertainment world, a comedian. Brian Regan. Funniest comedian in the world. I think he would be so fun to have a conversation with. I saw him doing with the Jerry Seinfeld Comedians of Cars Getting Coffee. I think he did 2 of those episodes. He would be great. We pick someone from politics. Well, if we're shooting for the stars here, we'll go president. I think Biden would be really fun to have on for a conversation. He's the current president, though, so I don't think he'd really be able to talk about anything. So it'd have to be a previous president. I know everyone would probably want to say Trump, but no, thank you. Just because I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. Come on. You know who would be a great person to have a conversation with that's a former president? It's got to be George W. How fun would that be? That'd be good. And then, I don't know, what's another sports? I wouldn't want to do an athlete or anything because whatever. Maybe Tony Kornheiser, for pardon the interruption. That would be a fun conversation to have. So there you go. Brian Regan, George W. Bush, and Tony Kornheiser.
Good answers.
What is one thing for which you have no tolerance? Can't say cancel culture. We just talked about that.
People who disrespect their elders.
Ooh, good one.
I've seen it, whether it's kids disrespecting their parents. I ran a nursing home for a long time and saw some situations occasionally where with elderly parents disrespected, or even worse, people who take advantage of vulnerable adults. Both those things just right up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you one of those that taught your kids you open the door for someone behind you, not just women, not just adults. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yep,
like it isn't just chivalry. It's just if there's someone behind you, you open the door for them. It's a no-brainer. And I see so many people not doing that. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Who are your parents?
And sir and ma'am are signs of respect. You call adults, Mr. or Mrs. Well, thank you, Stacy.
We're going to get that off the screen right away. No compliments, please.
You call your friends' parents Mr. or Mrs. until told differently. Just basic stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so we're at 9:06, so we're already getting running out of time. So I'm going to fly through a few. You get 15 seconds for each one of these.
Oh,
Or maybe 25 seconds or
that's
something.
the rest of mine. Okay.
Well, if you have a few more, that's fine. I just want to go through these because I don't want to forget. What's one? Because I've spent time coming up with these 10 questions, and I think we're through 5.
So my time isn't important that I spent coming up with these, huh?
That is correct.
Okay.
What's the one thing? What's the one thing that keeps you up at night?
There really isn't anything anymore. Early in my career, I would take my job home and have a lot of sleepless nights. Really, there isn't anything anymore. I don't sleep well anyway at my age. So.
Yeah, you hit 45 after that. It's just
really,
the worst.
I'm up till 10:30. So yeah.
What's the one thing that if you had a chance to do it over again, you would do differently, personal or professional?
I would probably say it's more of a personal thing. When I got out of college, I would do more to keep myself in better shape. I got a desk job. I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing so. I was in very good shape in college, worked out in that, started to put on the weight and all the things that come with it. I think that is one thing I look back. I wish, because now I bike, I do different things, but it's hard, So.
Oh, I have a bike question for you coming up. Here's number 8. What does it take for someone to earn your respect?
Wow. Good question.
Boom. Wish we had more time.
Honest and genuine. I like people who are honest and genuine. And I started my career in Montana. One of my favorite things about Montana, if someone didn't like you, you knew about it. There weren't games, It just, you need to be honest. You need to be genuine, not play games. That's how I respect people. I may not like what they have to say, but, and even here at work, same with managers I work with and that. Let's be true to ourselves. Let's be honest.
Number 9, what is your most proud accomplishment in your professional career? Hiring Michelle.
That's a good one. It's 2 really. One is the new hospital we built here. I mean, it's kind of, we did something that's going to affect this community positively for a generation. However, I think even more than that is the culture that we have developed at Spooner Health. You hear me talk about our patient satisfaction surveys.
Yeah, hold on. What do you talk about now?
In our patient satisfaction surveys and in conversations with patients, they appreciate the fact that staff got to know them. Staff really took their preferences into account, and they just feel grateful that they are being cared for as a person.
To learn more about our services, visit SpoonerHealth.com.
I'm sending you another invoice for that, by the way.
I was just going to say, we're not paying for that second.
No, but that's interesting. I probably should have kind of tied that in with that commercial. Well, you had a 15-second commercial, and that's the one you want to talk about, and which is exactly what you're talking about right now.
It is. We have a culture, and it wasn't always this way. I mean, I was here for 15 years in a different culture before we started. We purposely said we have to do things different. We have to differentiate ourselves from others. We started our commitment to excellence, and I mean, we talk about patient satisfaction. One thing we don't talk much about. Our employee engagement is measured every year. So that really looks at how engaged our employees are, how satisfied they are.
Engaged with what?
Engaged with the employer, with their jobs, with patients. It measures lots of different things.
Got it.
And satisfaction is a big part of that. We have been above the 90th percentile for our employee engagement for the last 12 or 13 years. That means higher than 9 out of 10 other hospitals. Very proud of that, the culture we've created. And it's been a lot of work from a lot of great people. From the top on down to every employee we have.
What do you attribute this to?
We made a concerted effort to change, to how we do things, to how we as senior leaders work with our staff, how our manager work with staff, how our staff work with staff. And it was a long process. We started this, we were at the 12th percentile for employees.
Ouch!
Yeah. And I told our staff, my goal is to be at the 90th percentile in 5 years. We made it in 2. And more importantly, is we've kept it there. So what we hear, I mean, during COVID, we used a lot of traveling nurses, which we still have some. We have a couple of them from Eau Claire who came up here, and they would tell our staff, wow, your culture up here is something else. It's just amazing how everybody works so well together. We have a couple of traveling nurses that stayed on as casual status. they have their main jobs in Eau Claire, but they still like it here. So I'm really proud because we put the patient first.
Well, that's leadership. Culture starts at leadership. And that it's like a head coach. You get credit and you get the blame.
Yep.
Things go well and things don't. Now, obviously, this is not just you. So that at the very beginning of the show, I said, Dad, you have a breakfast when Dad was coming. He's actually, I think, meeting Tracy Finch this morning in Burnett County, the sheriff over there. That's another great example. Like, she won't take credit for anything. It's my team. It's my team that said, yes, but look where, what you came into, which that's a conversation for another day, and how she is able to turn that around. And it started with you, Tracy, but she's like, no, it's not me. It's everyone else. I'm like, yes, but it starts with you. Then it is everyone else. But there's a lot of leadership positions in a business. And you all kind of have to get on the same team. But leadership, not just one person, but a team. That's what creates that culture. Because you set that standard, and then everybody starts buying into it, and then everybody is the reason that we've gotten this done. But it starts somewhere, and it has to start with leadership, and that's why leadership. You look at sheriff's offices, other businesses. You look at their leadership. That creates a good culture. So no kidding, good for you. How many years? 90 percentile? 12? 15?
It's 12 or 13.
12 that's freaking ridiculous. Lastly, I know you ride a bike as a hobby.
Yes.
Do you prefer a road bike, that's like the thin tires, or a fat tire bike? Because Kenneth has been riding a lot of bikes, so I wanted to ask, what do you prefer? I know fat tire bikes are kind of a popular thing now. Have you ever been on those? Do you like doing those?
I bought a fat tire bike this last fall. I have friends who ride in the winter who tried to get me to get a fat tire bike, and I'll be honest, I'm a winter couch potato. Years ago, I cross-country and downhill skied, but I got talked into a fat tire bike. I love it. I had more fun out riding in the winter on the groomed trails and occasionally on the road on my fat tire bike. But I like the variety, to be honest. Example, on Saturday, Wednesday night, went on a bike ride. We have a group that rides on Wednesday nights. If you would have told me that I was going to do 2 trips up and down Highway 253, both directions, as hilly as that is, be about 15 miles from Spooner, get soaking wet, and I'd enjoy myself. I had a great ride, 30 miles. It was fun.
I think I saw you post that on your Facebook page.
Yeah, I did, because it was just unique. Then I ended up on Saturday. It was a beautiful day. I felt good. I rode 40 miles, which is my second longest ride. I've done that a couple times. Last night, I met one of the guys and spent an hour in City Park trails on the fat tire bike, riding the trails. I love the variety, but I love my fat tire bike. I'm surprised how much I enjoy it.
No kidding. I thought that was like a young person. I mean, Kenneth was talking about it, and he's like 13.
Young guys do it too, but quite honestly, when you're a big guy like myself,
I am as well.
Tires and the cushion helps a little bit.
That is nice.
Eating road tires. So.
Yeah, but isn't it harder to pedal and go fast because it's?
Oh yeah, I mean, I ride my road bike. I maybe average 16, 17 miles an hour. If I take the fat tire bike out on the roads, I got to push it to do 14. So.
Oy. Well, it looks like it must be time to wrap up the show because Dirk always sends this when we hit forecast. Much needed rain on its way tomorrow and evening. Some strong severe storms also possible, so pay attention to that. Dry, and then it looks like humidity next week, 80s and lower 90s next week. So it looks like a little more rain. It's weird. We've mowed the lawn once all year. You've done it twice. It needs it now, but then I turned it didn't start, so I had to take it to get it fixed. But we'll mow this week. That'll be the second time. It's almost end of July, and I've only mowed once, coming up on twice. It's crazy.
I do something for Dirk, though. Dirk, I care about the wind speed because back to the biking, if it's a really windy day, I won't go on the road bike. Then I go to the trails.
Are you literally criticizing our meteorologist on the show?
I'm asking for additional information.
Wow. He does this for free, but no, wow, my goodness. Don't go to work for Mike. Oh, I loved what you did, but you could do better.
Oh, thanks a lot, Ben. Boy, here comes the bus. Let's throw Mike under it.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, cool. Thanks, Mike, so much for coming on and filling in and doing a different kind of a show today.
I appreciate your having me.
I figured we probably shouldn't do press releases and articles. It looks like Fitzy had a busy.
He's been busy
last week. Yep. Holy cow.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed it, Ben. Thanks, thanks, Dirk. Thanks for having me. It is a little different when I don't have Fitzy, so we can gang up on you lots.
I know, this is actually kind of nice with him not being here. All right, what do you have coming up? This week?
I'm actually going to see my oldest son for the first time in.
For the first time?
Months. There's quite a few months. He and his wife are going to be moving from Dallas-Fort Worth area to Minneapolis area. He's going to be bringing up a trailer full of stuff on Sunday. So
why? If you don't want to share, that's fine. But why is he moving?
He got a job. He's a pilot with Delta Airlines, and he's
no kidding.
Going to be domiciled at MSP. So we're happy. Her parents, Sarah, his wife, happy. Parents live in St. Cloud area. So yeah, we're going to have him back.
How many hours do these pilots have to? I thought I've heard that they will.
It's
like work like 24-hour long shifts or something crazy. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what now? I feel like that isn't probably good. Is that a thing? Like they just work like super long? No.
He being a new first officer will be on reserve a lot. So you have reserve days where, I know in August he's on every weekend reserve. So within 18 hours, they let him know where his flight's going to be, what he has to report for, whatever. But it's not like 24-hour duty. They're very highly regulated by the FAA, so they don't get fatigued.
Really? How long has he been a commercial pilot?
He was doing freight before this for probably 3 years, I would guess, with the company, and then started interviewing and got what he calls his dream job. So we're happy for him.
Good for him.
Happy to have him close.
Awesome. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you've been watching Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy, presented by Professional Exteriors and Interiors. With 20 years of experience, this locally owned and operated business provides quality work both on the inside and on the outside of your home or business. Like Fitzy and I, they believe that it's a little things that make a big difference. Give them a call today. The number's right there on the screen, 715-520-2271. Special thank you to our very good friend and friend of the show, Spooner Health CEO Mike Schafer, for stepping up and filling in for Fitzy this week, who I presume will be back next week, but you never know. So until then, thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.